Hi everybody, welcome to Sprague Woodturning. My name is Jim. This week we got something a little different for you. I recently watched a video by Aaron Gropper. His channel is Aaron African Meat. Now the reason it's called African Meat is because when he first started his channel, apparently he was doing barbecue, like a barbecue channel. So he lives in South Africa, and you would go to these shows and you got the nickname African Meat. So anyway, that's the name of his channel if you're curious. Anyway, I like watching his channel because he works with a lot of species that I don't work with. And one of the species that he did not too long ago was a Padauk piece that had black resin in it, and it was called Wood Turning a Tiger. And so he cut grooves along the edge and cut it in this orientation and pulled it apart and cast black resin between the pieces and then mounted it on the lathe, and it was a really neat look. So I asked him, hey, can you mind if I could give a shot at this and, you know, obviously change it up? He said, yeah, sure, no problem. So anyway, I'll leave his details at the end of this video. Make sure you check him out. It's kind of fresh and kind of refreshing to see kind of the stuff he does, because I haven't really seen a lot of other people here on YouTube doing it. So make sure you check him out. Now, what I want to do is, right now, these are two pieces of walnut, and I've flattened them on my bandsaw, or I flattened them on my drum sander, and then I've cut them on my bandsaw and cleaned the edges up. And what I want to do is actually cast some resin between the two of these, and then cut this in different pieces and orientation and pull it apart. Right now, this is 10.5 inches in diameter, and the maximum diameter of my pressure pot is 12.5 inches. So I plan on pulling this apart to get the full size of my pressure pot, and then of course do some coring. That's one of the reasons why I want to do a blank this large. Of course, this is all subject to change. I've never done anything like this, so I don't know. And it's probably going to be one of these bowls that you're really going to love or you're really going to hate, because I plan on putting at least 4 different colors in this. So it's probably going to be really busy. So anyway, I'll leave it up to you guys to tell me if you like it or not. So anyway, let's get over to the workbench, and I'll show you what the first step is that I want to do with these. And if you haven't subscribed, please consider doing so, and don't forget that thumbs up. It certainly helps out the channel as well. All right, let's get over to the bench now and look at this. All right, so I'm getting ready to basically get these two pieces of walnut ready for the epoxy. And what I'm doing here, this is a piece of cherry, and I'm just going to glue this right in the center of this piece of walnut. And it's just a spacer is all it is. Again, I'm using the thin CA glue from Star Bond. The other one on top. And this will be our gap where the epoxy will go when it's put into the pressure pot. So I'm going to make sure I line up the grain orientation before I drop this on there. So there's our gap. These have all been put through the my drum sanders, so they're nice and flat to each other. So this gap should remain equal all the way around. I'm going to be using a 10.5 liter bucket here. I did actually have to cut these down to 9 inches because the bottom of this is 9 inches. And so when I cut this, when it comes out of the pressure pot, and I cut this into pieces again, I'm going to put it in a 5-gallon bucket, and it's 9 inches, 9 7/8 inches across. So it's going to be almost an inch bigger for us to expand this. But anyway, let's tackle one thing at a time. Now this bucket, for whatever reason, won't sit flat, so that's a bit of a pain. So anyway, let's get some epoxy mixed up. And speaking of epoxy, these are the three colors that I'm going to be going for. Black pearl, neon white, and I told you I'd be using this one day, and today's the day. Neon yellow. With these colors, I'm also going to use one of these. I'm not exactly sure yet. It's either going to be scarlet, lilac, or diamond gold. So again, these are the 2-ounce packs from Designer Epoxy, and you'll get 5 of these when you put your order in. And just use code INLAYJIM21 when you do so, and you'll get that and $10 off. But I don't know exactly which ones I'm going to go with in the future. Right now, I'm going to definitely use these two, and I'm going to use the black right now. Those other ones, once I get this all together and cut up, I'll have a look at it and see if it's going to work, or what color works the best. Going with the Pro Series from Designer Epoxy. So black pearl, that's going to be our band color, if you will. And I want to mix this pretty strong. I don't want to be able to see through it. So hopefully we got enough. Guess we'll find out. Not even close. So here's another 12 ounces. Man, looks like it's going to need another 12. The bottom of that being dished, I think that's where a lot of the resin's going. So this is 36 ounces. Gotta be enough. I'm just really concerned about filling that groove. I don't really care about all around the wood if it's filled or not, just as long as that groove is filled. All right, finally. I did not think it would take that much. It certainly has. Let's get this in the pressure pot. So I've decided to mount this between centers. I want to flatten that. I don't know if you can see that. That's a convex surface there. So this has a taper to it this way, and I want to keep that because it'll fit well when I cast this in the next bucket. But this is all kind of rocking around, which I don't care for. So I'm just going to mount this between centers, flatten this bottom again, and I don't know, I might clean off the side too just to get a look at things. I don't know, I might leave it. As you can see, that's where a lot of the black epoxy went to. It went down the very base of that bucket, and I might try and heat it up with a heat gun and try and flatten it out for the future. Anyway, I forgot to turn the camera on. It just ground that little nub that was on there off. So anyway, we're going to lay this out now. And I don't think there's any right or wrong way to do this. I don't know, maybe there is. I'm just going to take this chalk and put some lines on here. I could scribe this on there. This resin's pretty hard to write on. Something like that. I don't know. Let's go to the bandsaw. Alright, so there's our pieces. The next step, I just want to clean up all of these rough edges with the belt sander. Okay, hopefully you can see in there. So this is a 5-gallon bucket, and you know what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to actually glue these pieces in place, and I'm not even going to bother showing it because you guys aren't even going to be able to see it anyway. Anyway, that's kind of just an 80 grit belt sander, and I just wanted to get the majority of the saw marks off from the bandsaw. Anyway, I'm going to try and evenly space these out best I can, and once I get that done, I'll bring it back in when I pour the resin. The great thing about my pressure pot is it will take a full 5-gallon bucket. So there is a link in the description for Canadian Amazon customers and American Amazon customers where you can purchase one. And of course, every time you click on the links, it helps out with the channel. So anyway, make sure you check them out. There's very few pressure pots on the market that will actually take a full-size 5-gallon bucket. Anyway, I'll bring you back when I'm ready for resin. Okay, so as you can see, we're going with yellow. I'm trying this new silicone mixing thing. We'll see how it goes. If it works, I will see if I can find a link and put it in the description below. So in total, I've got 30 ounces mixed up. Everything's been cleaned and blowed out, so we're now ready to pour. So after we get some resin in, I'm going to throw this on top of it. I should be able to break this away from any resin. I just plan on pouring to the very top of the blocks here. There's already some black on there, so I don't really even need to come right to the top. And then once I get that metal screen in there, I'll throw this as a lid, and then I'll throw the rock on top of that. That way the rock's not going to stick to anything. So let's hope that 30 ounces is enough. So yellow and black goes together. You know, Boston Bruins. I'd say we're going to need at least another 20 ounces or so. Okay, so we are out of the pressure pot the next day. Let's take this out. Resin always seems to throw curveballs every now and then. And it's no different this time. It looks like this is floated, and I'm just really surprised to see that. This was really weighted down well. And it's closed up in some areas over here. So I don't really know. I don't really have an explanation as to why that has done that. Anyway, let's get this off. I think what I'm going to do is just leave it as it sits and pour more resin on it. You know, maybe I'll throw another color on top of it. It's going to be multicolored anyway, so anyway, let's get this screen off here and see what we're looking at. Yeah, that ain't so bad. Now the only thing I can think, in order to get this 5-gallon bucket into my pressure pot, you have to actually push it down a little bit when the lid goes on. And maybe when I did that, it kind of distorted the bucket and pushed up the bottom. Regardless, it's got to be fixed, so let's do some more resin. Alright, I'm going to forego the screen. This is one solid block now anyway, so it's kind of pointless. And red, that's what we're going to go with. Or I guess it's scarlet. And one of the reasons why I'm doing this, I don't want this thing to get any shorter than it is. And that's kind of what I'm up against. So I could have mounted that between centers and whittled it off, but the thing is, it's just going to get shorter and shorter and shorter. So this way, at least we're going to maintain our height, because I really want to get a couple of cores out of this. But you know, we'll see. Just for a little safety though, I'll use my rock. And this thing's heavy, so that's the problem. Alright, so we're out of the pressure pot. This is the third casting done, I guess. Let's try and get this out of here. So it didn't look like it lifted. It just closed up. The gaps closed up on me in some parts. Let's do some drawing on this and figure out where our next batch of cuts are going to be. I guess maybe I'll just cut it like this side down. Why not, eh? And you know, I'm just trying to, I don't know. I'm trying to keep things, I really wanted this to stay even-ish, but not totally. It's not a total deal breaker that it isn't. It would have been nice to try and maintain some sort of space, but you know what? It's still going to be, well, it's going to be interesting anyway. Undecided as of right yet if this is a good idea or not. Something like that. So I just got done making our bucket here, and what I did was I just cut it off. This is a piece of, I think it's 1/2-inch plywood, and as you can see I tuck taped it on both sides, wrapped it around, wrapped it this way, put duct tape on it, glued it on the inside, and I actually ran a bead of glue before I shoved this down inside. So if this leaks, I don't know what to tell you. So what we're going to do is just glue these in place right now, and then do our resin pour. Alright, so we're getting ready to pour. I hot melt glued these on the side as well in an effort to keep them from moving around. And we are going to use diamond gold. That's what we're using. Look at that. Can't really see it, can you? Anyway, it's nice. Now, I don't know if this is going to be enough. Probably won't be. And I don't even really know how much this is because I used solo cups, and I was just using the reference marks on the solo cups. I think that's going to be good. I really like the this diamond gold. Do a project just that one of these days. All right, let's get it in the pressure pot. Okay, let's hope our mold didn't leak. Huh, didn't leak. Where did that resin ever drop though? I think it might be still okay though. Holy, finally. Wow. Anyway, the good news is our bucket didn't leak and I'll be able to reuse this in the future. Yeah, you know, I didn't want to spray any mold release in there because I wanted these pieces to be stuck in place, but wow, is that ever holding? As far as the casting is concerned, now I can bring the light over here so I'm not hitting it. It's a little bit below the wood surface. I see in there, it's awful hard too. And, but I think it's fine. All right, one more cut to go. And then we'll do one last casting and this will be done. This is becoming, you know, this is a week straight of casting so far, every day. So anyway, let's get another series of cuts on here and then pour some more resin. Actually, I'm not even going to show that. I'll just show the resin pour. All right, so I wanted to show this before I mix the resin. I'm going to be using this epoxy mold release, and I've decided to forego the plastic, and I'm just going to use the inside of my pressure pot with the, the mold release. Hopefully that'll work. So I'm going to spray the heck out of this, and then I'll get my pieces in there, and then we'll pour some resin. Okay, so for the last color, I decided to go with Pearl Red. I believe we used the fuchsia before, but I was going to add, sorry, we used the scarlet, but I was going to add some pearl to it. And when I looked at the two of them, these are pretty darn close, so I think I'll just go with the Pearl Red. There, that's a good level. Get some pressure in this and we'll see it tomorrow. So it's the next day, a little hard to see, but the level has dropped a little bit. Now let's try and get this out of here. I hope I haven't made a big mistake. I know I got to be careful of this flange. I don't need this to be dented up at all or else the lid won't seal on it. So I got to be careful, relatively careful taking this out. So I have an idea. I'm going to put this outside. It's a little bit above freezing right now. Or maybe it might be a little bit below. Anyway, I'm going to put this outside. Hopefully this will shrink or this will shrink and it will break the bond that we have right now. That's what I'm going to do. Then we'll try it again. There it is. Let's hope this works. So much for mold release. Man, I just don't know what to say. Needless to say, I will never do this again. And I apologize to all of you in there who said don't do it. Thermal shocking take 2. Well, that nightmare's finally over. I thought I'd show this. I had to turn the camera off because, well, there was a lot of cursing. I was not happy with myself. That's a stupid idea. Don't ever cast inside the pot. I knew, you know, in the back of my mind, I was saying, don't do it, Jim, but you know what? I had to try it. Anyway, I ended up just knocking it down on the floor until the blank got to the edge of it, and then of course you couldn't knock it any further, so I had to prop it up on those cylinder blocks and some wood. So that certainly is a lessons learned moment. I will certainly never do that again. But anyway, we're finally on the lathe, and again, you know, I'm using the 5/8 bowl gouge from David Ellsworth. So as I get my first look at the blank, now that I've got the majority of the wood exposed, say to myself, you know, this might actually look all right when it's done. Hopefully it is, because I had a ton of time and work into it, and resin. Yeah, and as I expose the top and the bottom of the blank, I say to myself, for sure, yeah, this is going to be really neat looking when it's done. So, you know, I'm just really glad to see it pan out. So I've cut in the tenon for the chuck for the coring, and I'm just using a little bit of shear scraping here to clean up the surface. It's not really all that important because it's going to be mounted again with a glue block, so I just really want to clean it off and make sure that it was all good to go. And I had the wood and the resin there, so I decided to make a tenon so that I could grab it with the chuck to put a base on the smaller bowl. Now, I didn't cover any of the coring setup on this video. I've got 2 or 3 videos now on my channel where I talk extensively about that. So if you want to check those out, that's where you're going to get your info for laying out your coring rig. But it was hard. I sharpened that cutter 3 times in order to get through that first that bowl. So I get asked this question a ton of times. This is just an electric frying pan with hot melt glue, the same glue that you would put into a glue gun. And I did put little reference marks on the base of the blanks. Dip it in with waste blocks, stick it on. That way you can completely do the inside and the outside of the blank and then do the base of the bowl separately. I've got lots of free snow if anybody's interested. All you got to do is come and get it. Yeah, so as you can see, we're back on the lathe, and the blank was a little out of balance. That's fine. I just really prefer this method over any other mounting method. I've lost a number of bowls out of chucks. I rarely lose one with this hot melt glue method. And I certainly have found, ever since doing resin, that shear scraping is the answer to do the outside of these bowls. Here I've switched to the rougher from Easy Wood Tools. It does a good job removing material fairly quick. It is a bit grabby, and this isn't the negative scraper one. So, but anyway, as long as you go slow with it, and you always work from the center out, it tends to work really good. It removes a lot of material fairly quickly. So I've switched to the finisher, and usually I find this that the finisher is not near as grabby as the rougher is. If you're a turner, you'll know that moment where you're just kind of, ooh, you've got all this time and money invested in something, and then a stupid thing like going from the rim to the center with this tool almost caused that blank to blow up. So, again, this is another lessons learned. When you're using these carbide tools, it's always best to go from the center out to the rim. Once you're on the side, it's okay to move in and out. But when you're on the very bottom of that bowl, you should always go from the center out to the rim. And as you can see, I've got it tilted on its side there now. Maybe I'm a little gun shy after that happening. Regardless, tilting it on its side like this actually worked pretty good. So if you've got one of these tools and you haven't tried that, give it a try. And of course, by kind of putting the tool up on its side, it now acts like a shear scraper. So it's not near as grabby, so you can go back and forth on the base of the bowl with this method. And again, if you use a negative rake, that probably never would have happened to begin with. Finally getting down to cleaning out all that chip out. I'll tell you, like my heart almost stopped, and I mean, I'm certainly not. That's not the first time that's ever happened. But this was a special piece, and I certainly didn't want anything bad to happen. So I'm sanding here from 60 to 800, and of course these are the 3.5-inch dimple discs from sandpaper.ca. So years ago, I got some advice from a professional turner, and he said, you know, when you're using sandpaper, use it like your rich uncle's paying for it. And what he was getting at is by not overusing sandpaper once it wears out, you're going to get a better finish. Your production will increase, and you'll. Another problem with overusing sandpaper when it's wore out is you'll end up getting heat checking in the wood, because the tendency is to push harder on the paper, and that can cause heat checking. So anyway, that was great advice, and I think that everybody should really follow it. And here I'm just using a little air sander. I can't get in at the very base of this bowl. Anyway, it does a real good job doing that. I decided to go with the sanding sealer on this because there's a lot of wood with the resin. So prior to buffing, I figured it was best to use a sanding sealer. And that was Triple E, and I'm actually buffing the sanding sealer with the Triple E, and it does a good job. I should also mention that these are buffing pads from the Be All buffing system, and the threaded piece that you see that's in the drill is actually meant to go in an arbor of some sort, and you can redo those. All you have to do is actually hold the head of the bolt and then unscrew the nut, and it will restore the threads. And I'm using, of course, denatured alcohol to clean up the buffing compound before finish. Okay, so this is General Finishes Salad Bowl Finish. Now you may be asking yourself why I'm going with this. I've got a ton of time tied up in this. And I don't know exactly how the Mohawk salad bowl finish will react. So I'm just going to stick it out with this. I've got to use these cans up anyway. I still got 2 full cans of the salad bowl finish, and I think 3 cans of the wood bowl finish. So I still got to use those all up anyway. But anyway, I'm going with the one that I know and how I know how it's going to behave with the resin. So that's what. But I'm not done with the Mohawk stuff. That's for sure. And I don't know about you, but you know, this thing is pretty darn cool. Yes, sir. All right, so this is a small bowl. I didn't film any of the trimming or sanding of it. Thought I'd bring you in for the best part, which is the first coat of finish. It always is. Anyway, it was finished the same way as the other one. Sanding sealer. Then buffed it with the Triple E. Cool. What do you think? Let me know in the comments down below. Again, using the Triple E between coats. Okay, so it is the second coat of the General Finishes Salad Bowl Finish. And this should do it, I would think. So it's quite cold out here, and this is again the Salad Bowl Finish by General Finishes, and I can see that it's not laying down flat like the other salad bowl, the Mohawk stuff that we tried. So you know, it's kind of funny that I guess I probably should have waited for the shop to warm up before I put this on, but this is all I plan on doing today because I got a bunch of video editing to do. So it's kind of interesting to see kind of the same streaking in this. So, you know, next time, and I did try the Mohawk stuff, you know, out of my clean room where there's heat, so that probably shouldn't be the issue with it. But anyway, just an observation. Anyway, these, I'm sure this is probably it for finish for these two bowls. Cut these off tomorrow and finish the bottoms. So the final step before I cut these off is just to buff them with white diamond. It's not as aggressive as a triple E and does a good job just shining things up. So if you're new to my channel, this is what's called a vacuum chuck, and it's got a neoprene top on it. It's an aluminum body, and you use vacuum pressure to hold the bowl in place, and it doesn't mark up your bowl. It's a great product made by One Way Manufacturing. And since there's no end grain on the bottom of this bowl, I started sanding at 120 and of course to 800. Well, alright, let's finish this video up. Well, alright, that's it for the video. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Bring in for a last little look here. So shiny. Just got to tilt it on an angle so you can actually see it. So the big bowl ended up being 10.5 by 3.5. And ordinarily this resin staining in the wood would bother me, but it doesn't at all. It actually makes it look, it gives it another dimension almost. So anyway, we got 5 different pours in here. This thing's been a 1.5 weeks in the making. So there's a ton of labor involved in this. So ordinarily I'm not a guy that really grooves out on really flashy kind of stuff, but I'm telling you right now, I freaking love this bowl. It is awesome. It is absolutely cool. Still got one more coat to do on the bottom. I did initially try and write on the resin, but it wasn't happening, so it's on the wood. I don't know if you could see that or not. Just wherever I could. Yeah, I could get a coin and put a coin in here, but the thing is, when you look at this, there'd be a dark spot in the bowl, so I didn't really want to do that. I don't have coins anyway. So anyway, there's that one. This one ended up being 7.5 by 1.5, I think it is. And it's got more resin in it because it was right in the base, where of course we've been pulling those pieces apart. And again, it needs another coat. And the writing is on the 2 pieces of wood there. I don't know if it'll pick it up or not. So, do's and don'ts. You know, I'm always trying to push the envelope here, and when I cast in that, I might have gotten away with just a pressure pot that didn't have any paint in it. It might have worked, but that epoxy chemically bonded to that paint, and I'm telling you, I wailed on that thing. I cut 95% of the footage out. It took me probably 2 hours to get that thing out of the pressure pot. So don't do that. That was a mistake. I know that I originally was going to use plastic, but I was worried about the plastic going inside one of these grooves, and then I'd have to do another casting. And besides, I was really going for the biggest bowl I could go for. In the end, it wouldn't have worked anyway. I wasn't thinking properly, because if you've got something that's this big, and as you expand it, yeah, sure, this very tip of it is going to touch the outside diameter, but the other piece is not. So that's why this ended up being 10.5 inches in diameter. Anyway, regardless, and I wanted to go for another core, but I was just, you know, I've never cored resin before, not on this scale. So, you know, I was going for the sure thing, and you know, I'm good with it. It would have been nice to get another bowl out of there, but I'm good with it. And with all that, I mean, with me pounding on that pressure pot, especially with this big hammer, I'm telling you right now, I am shocked that epoxy wasn't full of cracks. There was one small little crack on the very bottom that I just took some thin CA glue to, and you'd never even know where it is. But it's on this greenish part here. And we didn't use the white. I had intended on it, but I just was running out of time. I had to get this uploaded. I'm not so sure why the neon yellow turned green. I don't know if it maybe reacted with another color that was in here for that to happen. Regardless, I'm good with it anyway. And that goes to show you how strong that epoxy is. I was giving her, trust me, I was giving her. And I actually caved in the very bottom of my pressure pot. Don't worry, I punched it out. It pressurizes, it held pressure 60 psi for 3 days, so it's fine. But I'm telling you, that epoxy, that is awesome stuff. Thank you so much, Designer Epoxy. And along with that, of course, sandpaper.ca, great sandpaper, those 3.5-inch dimple discs. Absolutely love them, so make sure you check them out. And of course, Starbond adhesives. Anyway, in the description below is all the discount codes, so make sure you check that out. Along with an Amazon discount codes for that. I guess they're not discount codes, but for that pressure pot from California Air Tools, that thing is awesome. To take a beating like that and keep on ticking, that's a great product. Anyway, that's it. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Hopefully it wasn't too long for you. It kind of got away on me. Anyway, I don't know what we're going to do next week, so make sure you come on back for that. Anyway, if you can give my videos a thumbs up, it certainly helps with the analytics. And of course, don't forget that bell, you know when I get up, put up a new video. And if you got time, head over to Instagram and Facebook and check out me at Sprague Woodturning there. So until then, take care, stay safe. We'll see you next week.